you will not be a different person if you stop smoking weed. You will, if you have specific friendships that were developed because of weed and smoking together, they're not going to go away. The jokes that you have together, they're going to be there. The fun you have with that person or that activity is still there. It's not going to be changed. You know, you have may have developed your identity around weed, but to some extent, to whatever extent, but it's not when the weed leaves you, the personality you've developed throughout your life does not. And in fact, it's the opposite. It actually makes room for you to grow into the good parts of yourself. Hey, um, you're probably watching this because you're considering quitting marijuana, or you're curious about the impact it can have on someone's life, or someone you care about, um, someone you're worried about, or it's you. I'm making this not only for people that are looking for someone else's experience in that way, but also for myself, because I'm only a month and a half out, maybe 2 months from smoking weed in this iteration of quitting. I've quit before, but briefly, my relationship with weed started probably when I was about 13. I'm in my mid 20s now. I think I was about 13, 12. I started smoking not for two reasons. One was difficult family troubles that made me think weed was an outlet, and it was an outlet for my emotions and to have some sort of control over my emotions. I'll get back to that in a second. Uh, I think everyone has their own personal reasons for starting, and I think the reasons you smoke weed over time change as well. But that's why I started to have this thing that I could engage in that would make me feel a certain way consistently when I wanted it. And that was really important. Um, I want to say that I'm not anti weed, I'm not anti drug. Uh, uh, Many people have one thing or multiple things that is really toxic to them that they engage with as either a coping mechanism or something that starts as pleasure but turns into dependency. For me, it's weed. I can't moderate my weed use. I can't choose to only smoke on the weekends. Um, it's it. I simply am not able. Whereas I am able to moderate my use of other drugs and other substances, um, and other habits. But weed is different for me. But I want to be very clear. I'm not anti-weed. I'm just not, because it could be anti-anything. This could be anti-exercise. You know, some people are addicted to exercise. So I'm not hating. and I He's hating. Unfortunately believe, because of the way that I've abused it over the years from an early point, um, that it's been a net harm in my life, unfortunately. It's hard to come to terms with that. I'm mid 20s, 26 right now. um I'm hoping that people that are younger than me, whose brains are still developing and all that shit, can can hopefully hear what I'm saying here, because a lot of the important moments I had were uh when I was maturing, the moments that I felt I would have handled differently had I not been dependent on weed at the time. In the past 10 years, I would say I've been sober for weeks at a time. There was one time that I stopped smoking weed for 2 years before I started up again. And that kind of brings me to what I started this with, which is this video is not just for people looking to find someone else with similar experiences, but it's also for me, because I've noticed a tendency to be a year or two out, even like 6 months out from smoking weed, and then I'm like, oh, I'm normal again. Let's see if I can moderate my weed use. Let's go back to Let's go back to smoking on the weekends socially. I remember how nice it was to have that state change. I'm going to say that a lot throughout this video, state change. That's what I think is really appealing about a substance like weed. This ability to do it and to feel differently, to feel a way that is predictable, that you are familiar with. There are certain relationships that I've had that I just know I would have handled differently had I not been smoking weed. You may have heard before that weed, affects your confidence, it makes you anxious in ways, and everyone's experience is going to be different, of course, but for me, I was so unsure and so uncomfortable with being unsure due to my weed use that I actually ended a relationship that was fantastic because I was scared of the unknown, and finding out who I am and the confidence that I have without weed, I am just sure things would have gone differently. I was 18 at the time. I'm 26 now, but I still think about moments like that, kind of pivotal moments in relationships or life choices, where it's like if one person sees this video and it makes them kind of rethink their weed use and how they're using it every day and dependent on it, then that's going to be worth it, because I can't get that time back, those foggy days where weeks and months seemed like minutes when I look back at them because I was stoned the whole time. It wasn't fair to me, and it won't be fair to you if that's what you're doing right now. Alan Carr, in his book about quitting nicotine smoking, has this great analogy about putting shoes on in the morning that are 2 sizes too small, only to then feel relief when you take them off in the evening. And sort of, it's like the wearing of the shoes that are too small is the being in the throes of a nicotine or weed addiction, or any kind of addiction, really. That you're doing this thing to it's like a cyclical, it doesn't make sense at all. You're relieving the anxiety of weed by smoking weed. I was looking for that state change, and it was putting me in that place, and then as that started to fade away, I was finding that relief again by trapping myself, which it's like so fucking backwards. It makes no sense. I could talk for hours about, the negative aspects of weed and the positive aspects of weed. Now, and in the times that I've quit before, when I've stopped smoking, I'm so much less anxious. My mood is stable. I'm sleeping better. I eat better. I have better social interactions. I want to go talk to people more. I want to go outside more. I want to exercise more. It's you want to once you're out of the cycle, you find yourself like reaching out into the world for things that feel good, that are like natural things, and you can spend more time with those things too, instead of weed being the numbers of the clock in your life. Like, when's the next time I can get stoned? When's the next time I can smoke? When's the next time I can engage in this state change? That is gone. You can do it and feel a certain way, but really what happens ultimately once you abuse it is that you're in that stoned or almost stoned haze just on a near constant basis, and so it's not even serving that purpose anymore of making you feel a different way. It's just relieving the anxiety that the withdrawal from the weed is making you feel, because that is what it makes you feel, this paranoia and anxiety when you don't have it, when you're using it a lot. I don't know why I keep having the urge to just not do this, to not make this video, but I know that at least for me, I need to be able to watch this a year from now when I'm feeling great, having not smoked weed for a large period of time, and I'm considering going back to it. I need to be able to see this and remind myself of a time when I'm pretty recently out of it, like 2 months right now, and I'm just starting to feel normal and good without it again, and that it's still fresh. I don't want this video to be incredibly long, but there are so many aspects of weed and my relationship with weed over the years that I could expand on and maybe want to expand on, and maybe I will in a future video or something. Let's talk about it, you know? Let's talk about it.